Hello and welcome to Python Fundamentals. In this course, we learn the underpinning Python programming skills, preparing for our journey towards mastering the Django Framework and the Python programming language. This tutorial is part of a series of tutorials. You can find the link to the whole playlist in the video description. This tutorial is from our Python Programming Fundamentals for Django Developers course, which you can find and purchase on Udemy. You will find all the latest and updated tutorials, as well as resources and assessments to help accelerate your learning of the subject. The link to the course, which will always provide the best price, can be found in the video description. Before we move into the final component of this section of the course, I wanted to formally introduce Python built-in functions. Python is a programming language which just keeps giving. There are so many great tools and libraries associated with the standard Python library, which will take potentially many years if you were to sit down and read through and learn all of them. It would take a very long time. And although you may at this point feel a little bit overwhelmed with the knowledge that you've learned so far, and even more so now I've just told you that, please don't. Remember always that this is a marathon and not a sprint. I wanted to bring to your attention Python built-in functions for a number of different reasons. First of all, there's no need for us to rewrite or reinvent the wheel. Python comes with lots of different libraries and built-ins that will perform certain activities, common tasks that we want to include in our code without having to write any additional code. Probably more important to understand is that we have already seen that we have started to build our own functions and provide function names for those functions. Although we haven't formally introduced functions yet, that will be later in the course. Now, what we want to try and avoid is naming a function that correlates or conflicts with one of the built-in functions. What will happen here, for example, if we were to name, for example, one of our functions print, potentially we would override the functionality that the print function provides. So we simply just want to avoid using names that are already being utilized by Python built-in functions, for example. So it doesn't mean you have to memorize everything here. It's just to be cautious and careful to try and avoid that if possible. So in the next tutorial, we're going to have a look at the built-in function. And this was probably the third reason why I wanted to introduce built-in functions here, because we are going to start to utilize some of these functions now and also throughout this course. So we'll start with the print function. That is typically the first built-in function that we learn. What we can do, this is the Python documentation, we can traverse down to the print function. It will provide us more information about how to use the function, what it does. It gives us a little bit of background and more in-depth information about the function, and also about any kind of additional things, I would say at this point, that we can do with the print function. Again, we'll learn more about functions later, and this will make a much more sense what these components are here inside of these parentheses. So let me just show you a simple example utilizing some of these built-ins. Right, so like I said, these built-in functions are pre-written code. So they provide us tools and features that we can utilize and integrate with our own code. And that, like I said, avoids us having to rewrite some of the common tools or features that we want to include in our code. Now, one of these common features will be to print, for example, to the terminal. So this is where the print built-in function comes into play. So let's go ahead and run this. So print, and now we need to specify what we want to print. So let's go ahead and just print out our value in this variable here, referenced via name. Okay, so this is going to run whenever we access the home page. So let's just give this a go. So I'll go ahead and Python 3 manage.py run server. we have already seen in previous examples utilizing print to output to the terminal, but I'll give you another example. So let's go back into our code, wherever we are, over here. Okay, so we access the home page, and notice what happens here in our terminal. We print out the name. And now anytime we refresh the page here, we can see what's happening in that this function is rerun. And when we rerun this function, you can see that we print this name out in the terminal. So print is utilized, a built-in function that allows us to print values to the terminal. So let's just take a look at something else here. Len, for example. So as we're told here, it will return the length or the number of items in an object. This can be a fairly useful and common function used, for example, in data science. So this string object here is an iterable, and that means that we can select each one of these characters one by one. So we can use this function within a function. So len, I use this function within a function here. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm printing the length of this string. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so 6 characters. So we should return 6. So if I go back and access my page and refresh, you can now see I'm returning 6. Throughout this course, no doubt I will introduce you to other built-in functions. By all means, have a little read yourself. But a lot of the functions are very specific, and I will try to, by the end of this course, introduce you to the more popular built-in functions that you might want to utilize in your code.